All right, guys, so I got the Tudor Hydronaut Bluesy, wore it, and the next day I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I answered it, and it was the Rolex AD, the Oyster Perpetual Blue Dial 369 36 millimeter is in. Now, I've been ambivalent about what to do regarding that watch. You know, they said that it would take 2 months to get in, and I was hoping it would be 2 months because I needed time to think about it. I also didn't anticipate getting two Tudors, a Bluesy and a Blackie. I'm wearing the Blackie now. Now, when I heard the woman's voice, I immediately recognized who it was. And my first thought was, oh shit. That's telling. That's telling. I mean, if I had thought, oh wow, then maybe that would have given a better window into what I should do. But I think gave a window into how I feel. And there's some ambivalence and some doubt in regard to buying the Oyster Perpetual. And that's not something I experienced with these Tudors. I mean, I no regret, and I was pretty Tudor crazy there, getting them. And let's talk about the fate of that Oyster Perpetual that's sitting there waiting for me. All right, so long story short, I took the call. I told the woman that I was gonna. I wasn't in a place where I could talk, and so she said she would call me the next day. And so I was thinking, you know, what do I do? Should I at least go and check it out? And I thought, you know, it's just a waste of time. I decided against it. And so I called her the next day before she called me. And I said, thanks for, you know, ordering it, and I really appreciate it. But I changed my mind. And wow, it was like, before I called, it was like, I had the feeling of like calling a woman to like break up with her or something like that. I was dreading it. And I didn't want to seem like one of these guys, you know, who orders something expensive, it comes in and they bail. And I imagine that happens a lot at Rolex. Somebody expresses interest and then bails. So anyway, she was really cool about it though. Absolutely awesome about it. And I was thinking, oh, I guess I can never go there again. But she was really cool about it and was like, yeah, no problem. And if there's anything in the future, then, you know, let me know. And so they were fantastic in taking my flippancy and being cool about it. All right, so now she told me on the phone that the watch did have the shorter, fatter hands, which I've actually come to like. But you know what else she said? She said that they could put the thinner, longer hands on it for me if I wanted that. So it would be $150 extra, but they could have done that. Now it's funny how I've changed my mind on that. Going for older hands at a cost seems crazy. So if I were gonna get it, I don't think I'd go that route. But let's talk about why I rethought it. Okay, well, first of all, the Tudors had something to do with it. I mean, laying out, you know, some money for two Tudors can eat a bit into the watch fund. So that's one aspect. But it's not the only aspect. There's lots of things. There's lots of reasons, and let's talk about a few. Now, first of all, let's talk about the role of the OP36. Why did I want it? Well, essentially, I wanted something different, yes, but I wanted something low-key and under the radar, so to speak. The Explorer 2 is probably the most under the radar Rolex I have, and it's still pretty obviously a Rolex. It's got the size, 40 millimeters. It's got, you know, something on the bezel. It's got that Cyclops, but it's still relatively low key, I guess, if any Rolex can be. Not so for the GMT Master 2. I think that's a really, for some reason, I don't know, maybe it's probably just because when I'm out and I see a GMT, Pepsi, Coke across the train, I mean, I notice it immediately, and it just screams to me. Obviously, I'm looking at it through the lens of somebody who is obsessed with that watch. So, you know, before I got into watches, I didn't notice anything on anybody's wrist. So, nobody notices watches, I think, okay? Unless people are trying to read you and get a sense of what kind of person you are, what kind of, you know, where you are on the socio-economic food chain, perhaps. But essentially, I wanted a Rolex. I wanted a good watch that was just something simple and low-key. Because I've got 3 Rolexes, and if I want to go low-key, I've got to go Seiko 5. So I've got, you know, $40 Seiko 5s, and then expensive Rolexes. I've got really nothing in between. And this would give me the Rolex and the Rolex quality, and I could look down and sort of enjoy it, but it wouldn't scream Rolex. It would be sort of as similar as I could get it to one of those Seiko 5s. That's just, you know, classic style, simplicity, and, you know, I could go Datejust, but then it's got the Cyclops, and so I didn't want to do that. So I thought it could be the Rolex Seiko 5, right? So that's really why I wanted it, okay? Now, is that a good reason to spend 550,000 yen on a watch because you want something low-key? I don't know. I mean, that's a lot of money, and that's more money than I spent on my Explorer 2 or my Sub. But of course, that was years ago, and that was then, and this is now. And now, do I think it's expensive? Well, yes, expensive, but do I think it's worth it? Well, I mean, if you're a one-watch guy, and you're thinking about this watch, and you think it could last you, and you'd be happy with it forever, it's a steal. I mean, you know, $5,000 for a watch that you can wear for decades upon decades. It makes perfect sense to me, and in that sense, I don't even understand why non-watch people don't have a good watch. It'll last you forever, but again, I mean, you know, priorities, and people get $5,000 together, and the last thing they want to get is, you know, a watch. Their Iron Man is serving them just fine, and they'd rather put that money into something they're really passionate about. And so I get that. People love shoes. People spend thousands on shoes. Not me. I like my, you know, $100 leather Coleman shoes. I'm totally cool with that. Is life too short to wear moderately cheap shoes? No, it's moderately cheap shoes are just what I go for, okay? Because I'm just not interested. Okay, that's just one example. All right, so it's not a particularly expensive watch in the grand scheme of things, but but it is when you consider that I've got 3 others, right? And compared to what I paid for those, and those are, those are more desirable models. It made me wonder if I was doing the right thing. If it was sort of practical. I mean, no, it's not really not practical to buy a 4th Rolex probably, but if it was at least a little bit practical, and I was questioning whether it was. All right. Speaking of speaking of practicality, was it? It was something. I don't know. I mentioned something. Oh yeah, desirability. That's it. Speaking of desirability, this watch was too easy to get. Okay, I walked in, I sat down, I gave him my contact details. There was no hunt. The hunt is vital. I mean, I'm going to make another video on the hunt, but the hunt is what it's all about. And there was no hunt. There was no game. I started to feel foolish about it. Why am I getting this? Yeah, I liked it, and I like it, and it's a great watch. Hey, and I'm not ragging on that watch at all. And if you have it, fantastic. But I love my hunts. I love the hunt, and there was nothing there. And why am I buying retail? You know, my conscience, which is like a little Archie that sits on my shoulder, kept saying, never buy new, never buy new. Okay, so for some reason, buying a steel sports watch, used, pre-owned, with a little bit of wear on it, I don't mind it so much, because, I don't know, it kind of adds to the character of it, and I sort of, even though it probably got those scuffs and scars, desk diving, I still, when I look at it, I imagine it getting them on the Sahara and in the jungles of the Amazon. I don't know, because it's like an adventurous looking watch, and I sort of imagine, you know, the life it previously lived may embody the adventures for which it was made. I don't see that when I see a Datejust or a used or pre-owned Oyster Perpetual. For some reason, I don't know why, I see a person's old stuff. Okay, so when it comes to a Datejust or an Oyster Perpetual, I don't think I could go anything but new. I don't know why. I don't know why I can forgive a bit of wear and see it as kind of an interesting and good thing if it's like a tough sports watch. Whereas I look at a Datejust, you know, on Rakuten that it's got some wear on it, and it's like, yeah, it's just some old businessman's like used stuff. I don't want it. It's odd. I don't understand it, but in that sense, going new sort of made sense for me. Okay, but that little Archie on my shoulder was saying, you're gonna lose money, and I knew I would. Of course, I was justifying it by saying, well, I'm not gonna have it serviced. I'm not gonna have to have it serviced for 10 years, I'm not gonna have to worry about anything, authenticity, whether it's been stolen, any sketchy history. That right there, in a way, justifies it. But and that's what I would tell somebody who wants, you know, just one watch to last them. I would say, if you're just going to get one watch and you see what you want on the new market, just go for it. You don't have to. It's just so much less hassle, right? But anyway, it is the hassle that I kind of like, and that's part of the reason that I loved getting these tutors. I mean, I you know, I found them, I hunted them down, I called about them, I checked them out. I mean, it was the hunt, and when I accomplished it, it was like I did it, you know. Whereas I don't think I would have had that same feeling with Oyster. I think after the novelty I think after the novelty wears off, I think I would have said, wow, I don't know. I mean, was that the right thing to do? And I don't think you should ever have that kind of ambivalence when you're looking at a watch purchase. I mean, whatever you're looking at it through, whatever lenses you're looking at it through, they're going to be less rosy after the purchase. And so if there is some ambivalence there before the purchase, beware, okay? There was no ambivalence here, man. I wanted it badly, and I'm happy about it. So I just don't know if that would have been the case with the Oyster Perpetual. Okay, we're getting kind of to the little things now. When I was ordering the watch, hey, Mark Goldberg got a Rolex hat. If I'm gonna drop $5,000, I want a hat, right? And I asked her, I said, you know, if I buy this watch, can you guys give me a hat? And she said no. And look, I did not get this watch because of a damn hat, all right? I will admit it. But I thought to myself, $5,000, and you can't rustle up a hat for me? Just the thought of that sort of made that call to tell him I wasn't interested pretty easy. Because it was like, anyway, maybe they don't have Rolex swag like they do in the States. I don't know, but yeah, that was a small factor, like 1%. Another was tax. Look, I spent $300 USD on tax on these Tudors, and it would have been about $400 tax on this watch. And I'm gonna make another video about taxes and buying watches and taxes, you know, especially if you're coming to Japan as a tourist. You probably want to see that video. But I don't get tax breaks, and so that I saw her write the price and then the tax, and I saw that $400 in taxes, and I thought, damn, I hate to pay that. That's a lot of money in tax. Now, granted, I mean, it's only 100 more than I already spent in taxes on these, but I don't know. Well, I did get some money taken off this, so that I felt like I made up for what I spent in taxes on this one. So that's another small percent of reason why I rethought the OP. And let's talk about the original role of the OP. Bring it around to what I first talked about, and that was the role of the OP as something low-key. Well, I've got something low-key. This is not a Rolex, okay? It doesn't say Rolex. And, you know, it's interesting because I don't know if I would have felt that the OP was low-key. I mean, it's clearly, if you look at it, it's got the crown, it says Rolex. It doesn't scream Rolex like a GMT, but it's still a Rolex. And I wonder if I would have thought, well, it's more under the radar, but not quite enough. Well, totally okay with this one. I mean, this doesn't look like a sub. It doesn't look like anything. And if you do look closely, you're going to see it's not a Rolex. And nobody knows what a Tudor is. I mean, look, you and I know what a Tudor is, but most watch people don't. And they might look at the Cyclops, which is fine. I don't mind that this has a Cyclops, because if they look a little bit closer, they'll realize, well, it's not a Rolex. So I found the under the radar watch, and it's got a little bit more options than the OP did. I love a movable bezel. Okay, I love a movable bezel. I used it today. I timed something today, That was great. It's got the date. The OP didn't have the date. Could I have lived with it? Yes, absolutely. But it's nice that this has the date. That wasn't a deal breaker, but it's a plus for this one. Aesthetically, I'm more of a dive watch guy. Would the OP have looked better with a suit? Probably, but do I really care about that? Not really. So, in the end, I ticked off the box that I was trying to tick off, and that's still a good watch that blows my mind when I look down at my wrist, but that doesn't scream Rolex. That is a little bit low-key, and Blackie and Bluesy do that. So there you go. No OP for me now, these days. But will I rethink it in the future? Well, the god of horology is satiated, but he won't be forever. And when he comes knocking on my door, the OP might be something that he whispers in my ear. Hey, thanks for watching. Did I make a terrible mistake? Should I have gotten the OP and not the Bluesy and the Blackie? I don't know. Let me know. Take care. Thanks for watching. See you next time.